Bill, I'm not sure how many people actually know that. You are the voice of Lambeau Field. Bill Jartz on Inside Wisconsin. Bill, how are you?
Wonderful, my friend. Yeah, my friends, some of my friends call me Wolf, Voice of Lambeau Field. So
That's awesome.
that's what it. Yeah, it's my 18th year of doing it now already, and I replaced Gary Knappel, who did it for 40 years.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of a. I got a ways to go to catch up to Gary there, but now what did I mean? Truly, when you think about it. What a lucky guy I am to be able to do that. I remember when I was in sports many years ago, I started my career in sports. And I remember walking up to the stage and saying, wouldn't it be, I could hear Gary doing this thing. And I thought, wouldn't it be neat to someday do that? Never thinking in a million years it would happen. And then it happened.
And then it happened. So out of curiosity, we're talking about London, right? You and I don't know the game's outcome yet. We're chatting before the game happens. John Anderson is over in London. We're going to chat with Olivia Harlan-Decker. She's going to be going to the game. But this is the first time since 2005 that a Packer home game doesn't have Bill Jartz as the PA announcer. I mean, that's pretty insane if you think about it. We gave up a home game.
Well, kind of scary. Maybe they won't need me next week when they play the Jets. No, it's weird. You know, I feel for the businesses here, certainly. I mean, they say the value of a Packer home game is like $15 million to the hotels and the restaurants and all the other side attractions around the city. And not just the city, but around the whole area. So I feel bad for those guys, but maybe I'll just go around Sunday, and my wife's worried that I'm walking around saying, that's another Packers first down in the house. She'd be go crazy on that one kind of thing.
So that's actually, I love that. Another Packers first down. There was a time here in the last few years where they loosened the leash on you a little bit, and you were able to be more Bill Jartzy over that PA instead of just, the ones and the twos. What happened there?
Yeah, I think the arrival of Coach LaFleur kind of had a lot to do with it, to be quite honest with you. When I did my first year, it was 2005, and they did a special on. They used to have a TV show called GTV, which is a show that was designed for children, and the kids were the hosts of the thing. And so they did the first year. We have new PA announcer Lambeau Field after 40 years. Bill Jartz taking over for Gary Knappel. And they interviewed Jeff Blum, who at the time was the PR director for the Packers. And he said, well, when we went looking for a replacement for Gary, we were looking for someone with a traditional voice, not a screamer or a yeller. And then that's what we thought Bill kind of fit the bill. Now, fast forward, 16 years, I guess it was. And they just, Coach LaFleur really, really, really wants that place to rock. So they just said, kind of turn it loose. And, it started out on third downs. I used to say, first and 10 ball at the 20, at the 20, second and, 8 at the 22. And then from the 24-yard line, 3rd and 9 to get the crowd going. And now it's Coach LaFleur wants to allow it every single time they're winning on defense. So I walk out of there at the end of the day. I'm kind of tired, I'll be honest with you. But as long as they win, that's all that matters, I guess.
Yeah, it's not an easy gig. You and I both know that I do a little bit of this on the side as well, and you're obviously the voice of Lambeau. And it is not, people do not understand what goes into it. Maybe that would be fun to know. Bill, walk us through a day being the voice of Lambeau Field. What time do you, let's just call it a noon game. Yeah. What time do you get there? What time do you leave? And is it my understanding that you read the entire script before every single game?
Oh, yeah. Well, it actually starts earlier in the week. What I do is I contact the Packer PR people, usually on Tuesdays. I said, can you send me over all the information, the alphabetical, the numeric, the pronunciation guide, and a contact person from the visiting team. Print those babies out, and I get the pronunciation of the names. That's so very, very important. No matter what, you have to be able to say their names right. If you say a butcher name on the newscast, maybe somebody says, it's no big deal. You butcher a name over there, and people hear about it. So all week long, I tape it to my computer, and I look at it from time to time, a couple, 3 times a day. I just run through the names, just so by the time I get to Sunday, I'm pretty familiar with who the visitors are. I know our guys, of course, all the time. So then on game day, we always meet as a production crew 3 hours and 15 minutes prior to kickoff. So noon game, we'll meet at 8:45 next week. Next Sunday, we'll be at 8:45. So I live in Maribel, so that's 35 minutes away. I pick up my spotter, lives right down the road. So we go in. We usually get to the stadium about an hour prior, hour to 45 minutes before. Go up to the booth, drop our stuff off, and then we walk to the production meeting and make it happen right now. And so then we just go through the entire script. We literally go page by page and time it. Because the timing is so very, very important. Like with the national anthem, and we time the anthem. So they put it in typically for 15 seconds. Well, I read it, and they say, okay, and they time it as 13 seconds. Okay, now read it again. Read it. 13 seconds. And why is that important? What's 2 seconds? Well, those planes are going 300 miles an hour. So if I'm off by a couple of seconds, they'd be in, Antigo by the time I get done. So, and then I just quietly go to a place somewhere and I just go over the scripts and mark things how I feel comfortable with the punctuation and things, and think of how I'm going to read it. And then prepare, the starting lineups. I want to make sure, how am I going to say this guy's name? How's it going to work? How many do we have? Typically it's not 11, it's just usually 12 or 13, sometimes 14 players we introduce. So you're moving and then, then you have a spot. I have a spotter to my left, my neighbor Pat, and the guy on my right is Mike McKenna, who's been doing that now for 33 years. So he's pretty well versed on it. And then we just play ball, because there's nothing you can really, where you rehearse the scripts, the reads I have, the promotional things and things of that nature. But the rest of it is just, you got to play ball. And we literally call kind of a play-by-play thing. It's, Rogers complete to Aaron Jones, tackled by, 57. They're going to have a flip card in front of me, 57, tackled by Smith, second and 8 ball at the 34. And then if they're on defense, then I have to find out, are we doing some tape pre-production things where they have a player saying, come on, Lambeau, we need to get loud, come on. Or am I free? Can I do my thing? And I have to be always done. The play clock is 40 seconds. I have to be done by 20. I can be a cheerleader up to 20 seconds. And from 20 down to 15 seconds, I can be just first and 10 ball to 20. I can't have any emphasis at all. And then after 15, I can't say anything. So there are rules that are behind it that a lot of people aren't aware of. But you watch that clock pretty closely, and and if you don't, if you go over, then the league gets a copy of the tape, and the next time I walk in the stadium, they say, "Hey, you were late a couple of times," and you watch it. Last time they were, they've already threatened $50,000 fines and all that. I mean, come on, get serious. But whatever.
That's quite the day, though. From 8 o'clock leaving home till you're probably not out of there till 3:30, 4 o'clock. And that's a long day.
Yeah, and we don't stick around once the game is over. We just basically get in the car and we drive home. The three of us ride together down to a park and ride. We drop off Mike, and then Pat and I drive home together. But it's nice because you can kind of unwind a little bit and talk about big things. Because for me anyway, many times you forget about, let's try to listen to the coaches' comments on the radio after the game, for the simple reason, sometimes you just forget about what happened. It sounds kind of silly, but you're taking Polaroid shots. Every single play is a Polaroid shot, and then you move on. And so it's sometimes you walk out and say, now they won, but one of those big plays, and it amazes me how Aaron Rodgers, in the third quarter, he had that pass in the flat to Dobbs there. What was going on there? And he recalls it immediately. Like, boom. Yeah. Well, they were in a too deep. And like, what? I don't remember Dobbs catching a pass, for God's sakes.
Yeah, it's a play-by-play thing, literally, for you. Yes. The ball is here. It's on there. This down, that guy, tackled by this. Yep. It's crazy. Is there a favorite name over the years that you've gotten to announce, Bill? Like, what is the player that you remember the most running out of that tunnel, and it's this name out of your voice?
Certain guys stick out. Brady Papinga, I thought was kind of easy. Papinga. You pop that baby a little bit. The one story I'll tell you is it was the Patriots, ironically. I don't know, probably 6-8 years ago, whatever it was. They had a player by the name of Michael Ho'omanawanui. So I'm going through my work in the pregame or the preseason or the before the week, and just kind of say, how do the pronunciation? I go, ooh, how do we say this guy's name? So I call up the PR guy. I said, how do you say this guy's name? And he goes, we have a song. We sing a song. Really? He said, yeah. He says, Michael Ho'omanawanui. Ho'omanawanui. God, that makes it so easy, Michael Ho'omanawanui. Well, fast forward to the game. Brady back to pass, complete to 88. And oh no, I can't sing it. I can't sing it. So pass complete to Ho'omanawanui. Yes, I did it. I did it.
Nailed it. That's awesome. John and I have talked about our top 5 Lambeau moments. I'm not going to ask you to recall your favorite Lambeau moments, but do you get goosebumps still? I mean, you've been doing it 18 years, but it's still Lambeau Field, right? It's still the Green Bay Packers. It was Brett Favre, and now it's Aaron Rodgers. And maybe the question is, what gives Bill Jartz goosebumps?
Well, for me, it's always the starting lineups. I mean, to get a chance to do that, because you know that the crowd is just electric at that point. You got last week, 78,300, I guess, and plus, getting really, really amped up. And, there's been times in the past where the network, there'd be a guy in there from the network, and they say, okay, and they'd hold, we go down the list, and they'd hold, okay, they're ready, okay, and then on their cue, we'd introduce Favre. And you just pray that your voice doesn't squeak or you don't butcher the intro somehow, because all of the whole country is going to know you're doing it. My college roommate lived in Cleveland, and we did a game one night for ESPN, and they were in there, and he goes, I watched you last night. Good thing you didn't butcher it, But no, the starting line's always so exciting, because Mike McKenna, the guy I work with, he gives tours all the time. So he takes people down, and they have a little button, a little recording press, a button on the field, and the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers. My voice comes in, and he says people get so excited about that, and the tears roll down their eyes. And he's talked to players about it too, and he said that's really, really a big deal. And it was like during the COVID years, I actually did the PA work. There was nobody in the stands, but I still did the PA work, just because Coach LaFleur wanted it to be normal. He wanted it to be a normal situation where you're in the down and distance, you're getting cheer, all that stuff, and it is pretty amazing. I don't think about it, but you realize that you can sense it from the crowd. We crack the window a little bit so we can hear the response to the crowd, and I feed off the crowd as much as the crowd feeds off me. So it's really kind of a nice little symbiotic relationship there that I have worked out there, and it's just so much fun. I mean, again, I grew up in Clintonville. Went to one Packer game as a kid, and it was just like, and I was like, wait a minute, I get to do the PA work at one of the most hallowed venues in all of sports. And as we say, they're in the code of conduct, the welcome to a 100-year-old tradition, and it's always voted as one of the best, if not the best, sports venues in the entire country. And that's never, I never forget about that. I realize how lucky I am, and I take it very serious. And that's why I try to prepare and make myself not look stupid, and do the organization a good, if you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I'm really grateful that you just talked about PA announcing to an empty stadium. I did that for Green Bay men's basketball, the Phoenix.
Yeah.
There was nobody there. It was so awkward. So awkward.
It was. I got to tell you a quick story about that. It was the divisional playoff game, and there was nobody in the stands, right? And the team had handed out these little cardboard things, go pack, go, and defense, and all these things, and there was social distancing, spacing, so there'd be a block of 6 people, and then there'd be open space all around, block of 4 people, space all around. So what they did, they took these signs, and they were kind of hard particle board or somebody, and they started banging them on the seat in front of them, and it made an unbelievably loud noise. So I'm thinking, I get in the ball, come on, Lambeau, let's hear those signs, let's hear you. So there's a bang, bang, bang. So I walk in for the championship game, and the guy up there walks up to gets in my face and goes, listen, not a word about those signs, using them as noisemakers, because otherwise we're going to be fined $50,000. I said, wait a minute, now, hold on a second. If we had a normal situation here with fans packed into Lambeau Field, you know what it's like. You can't get it. You couldn't have bang anything. You'd hit the guy in the head, he'd turn around and hit you. So it was only because of the way COVID set up that the seats were available, and you could bang it on that cold aluminum, and it made a lot of noise. So needless to say, I didn't say anything about it. I revved them up as best I could, but I didn't say bang those sides of the seat. I don't think I said it anyway, but they just said, well, I mean, really, it doesn't take me a brain surgeon to figure out, you can bang, hey, he'll make some noise here, bang, bang. He wants it loud, bang, bang, bang. His work's great, right? Yeah.
Man, so fun. So fun.
How do I explain that one to my wife? Yeah, honey,
Yeah.
I got a $50 fine, $50,000 fine today for the league. You get any money hiding anywhere,
Under the mattress. Tell me that they would not fine you, though. This is not a Bill Jartz bill.
I don't know. No, they would find the team. I guess it always goes to the team, but believe me, it would roll downhill, if you know what I'm saying. It would be my last game, I'm sure, at Lambeau.
No. Man, I can listen to these stories all day. It's a lot of fun. All right, this isn't the only gig that Bill has. We're going to talk about what else he's got going on with that number 2 behind his head. Back in a bit. Bill Jartz, the voice of Lambeau Field on Inside Wisconsin. We are back inside Wisconsin. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson is in London as we tape this episode. We'll chat with him, and that is the voice of Lambeau Field, Bill Jartz. So, Bill, you mentioned earlier that you're a Wisconsin boy. You grew up in Clintonville. Many people don't know this, but everything we do with Inside Wisconsin actually goes through Clintonville. It literally goes through trucker country. We work with a group of people, Craig in particular. He sits there in Clintonville, and he's the one that edits this entire show and puts it together. So when I told him that Clintonville's own Bill Jartz was coming on, he was tickled pink. So talk to us about being a trucker, man.
It's truly just a wonderful experience for me. I was so like I grew up in a small farm out there, just east of the city by the airport, and my father passed away when I was 12 years old. So we had a small farm, and I kind of took care of the cattle thing. But I remember in eighth grade, one of my science teachers said, "You should go out for football." And then they kind of started doing the, if you don't go out for football, you're going to be, kind of a wimp or whatever. So my freshman year, I went out for football, and I was a tight end, and I was okay. I didn't have really good hands. My sophomore year was a tight end, and in my junior year, my coach says, Coach Jerkback said, maybe you ought to become a tackle. And he said, I think it'd be a good tackle. And so I played tackle, and lucky enough, my senior year, we had a good year. I played with Mike Jersley. Everybody knows who Mike Jersley is back home and around the state. He was all-state in 3 sports, football, basketball, baseball. Played minor league baseball, was a third base manager for the Kansas City Royals. But long story short, I mean, Mike made everybody look good. And I got a football scholarship at Northwestern. And we won 3 games in 4 years, but that's another story, especially coming up this week. But it was just a wonderful, people care for one another. I mean, it was on Friday nights, it was the only game in town. You went to the football game because it was, A, we were good, and B, it was the only thing to do in town. And so for me, it was just a wonderful experience. I don't get back nearly as much since my mother passed away, but very, very fond memories. Probably senior year in high school, with the recruiting process and our football team finished 8-1. Our boys basketball team went to state and finished second in the state. I wasn't a player, but it was like a Cinderella story of flying out the recruiting trip. It was just a wonderful thing for me. It was a kid thought it was a big deal just to go to Green Bay to like go shopping or something. And stop at a McDonald's. You'd save the McDonald's bag because you'd walk in on Monday with your packed lunch and say, "Look where I was. I was in the big city." So you either went to Appleton, Oshkosh, or Green Bay when you had the McDonald's bag. It's like a big deal because there weren't any McDonald's back home. Now, my goodness, you got Culver's, you got McDonald's, everything is fast food everywhere. But back in those days, much, much different thing. And it was just a very simple. As I mentioned, I went to one Packer game. My high school coach took me to one. And remember the one thing he said was, "Okay, Bill, now watch when there's an interception or a touchdown or something back in the day, you could smoke in the stadium inside the bowl. And so sure enough, there'd be an interception, and all of you just look across the lights and the stand there, everybody's lighting up a cigarette, having a good. I go, "You coach, you're right. This is unbelievable. You're right on the money. You know what's going on." So yeah, it's to be. And then one of my high school teammates, the center Andy Thompson, was my spotter for like 25 years. I was in sports, and we did a pack of preseason football, and he was my spotter. And it was just kind of a special time because we could reminisce a lot about the things we'd been through. And then he was there and helping me out. He has fortunately passed away a couple of years ago, and I chose my neighbor as his replacement. That was a very tough thing to do because you rely so much on your spotters when you do this. But just wonderful times in Clintonville for me, and I try to get back as much as I can. Not nearly as much as I used to, but it's still always will be a sweet spot in my heart for that place.
Yeah, you talked about driving to Green Bay was a big deal, and now you literally drive to Green Bay every single day.
Yeah.
You are the one of two with Cammie Rebson, one of the lead anchors here at WBAY TB2 in Green Bay for nearly 40 years. Bill, you started there in 1983, and my man, I'm not making you feel old, but it might a little bit. I was born in 83. This has been your gig for a long time, man. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I came here as a weekend sports guy, and Joe Schmidt was a kid I played high school football. Joe was from Seymour, and I was from Clintonville. And when Ken Lass was the sports director at the time, he took a job in Birmingham, Alabama. And Joe called me over, and I was working at Channel 7 at Wausau. Then he said, "Yeah, you might be interested in this job. Why don't you apply for this job and see if you can get it?" Well, it turns out I got it. And then in 85, Joe goes to KFCP in Minneapolis, and I become the sports director. I worked until 90, and I left in 1990 to become a stockbroker. I know why they call them stockbrokers. I went broke selling stock. But anyway, I'm fortunate enough to get back in the business in 93 as a sports director again. And in 1998, one of our anchors left to go across the street, and they said, well, maybe you should, Chuck Ramsey was always somebody, said, you should go to Wausau, go to Eau Claire, get some seasoning as a news anchor and come back. And as it turned out, Chuck just went to the boss's office and said, your news anchor is sitting right over there, sharing an office with me. And that's how it came to be. So Mark Zealous gave me my big start over at Channel 7 at Wausau, a Wisconsin Broadcasting Hall of Famer. And Chuck Ramsey is the most responsible for me sitting in the chair I am. But very, very lucky. I started out doing just the 10, and Chuck retired in 2002. So 4 years later, he retires, and I take over the 5, 6, and 10. And I just, I grew up watching this station. So for me, this is a really big deal. I grew up watching Chuck Ramsey, and I shared an office with him. You know, we would go to dinner with him, and we still keep in touch. And I realized, you know, for me, this is we're the second TV station on in the state of Wisconsin behind WTMJ. So it's a big deal for this station, and they've done a lot of cool things. First to televise preseason Packer football, and we were, Packer station for many, many years. We were CBS at the time. We covered, the Packers in their glory years. So this was a station, a very firm identity with the NFL and with specifically with the Packers. And to be a part of that, I've been very, very lucky in my life. And, you always wonder, you put on the earth for what reason? I think in my case, I was, I tried being a stockbroker, tried being a commercial or industrial paper salesman. It just wasn't me. I mean, this is what me was put on the earth for. I'm convinced. And I hope it, runs a couple more years yet anyway. I good Lord willing, with health and everything, I've been lucky in that regard. And, you meet so many people, you get a chance to do so many neat experiences. I've been to, 3 Super Bowls. I've been to the Rose Bowl, went to Tokyo, I've been to Washington, D.C. to cover stories. That you realize, some of the things that, people pay a lot of money to go see, you're part of it. You're telling the story back. And whether it's sports or news, you're a storyteller. That's all you are. You're telling stories. The weather is the most important part of any newscast. And then in this market, sports is a great deal of problem. I mean, I guarantee you this week, this London thing, we're going to play this so big, as will our competitor. It's a huge story because the Packers are so big. So many people care about the Packers. It becomes, a lot of, I remember we had a news director come in one time. Excuse me. He said, I can't believe we're leading with the Packers. What else would you lead with on a Sunday night after a Packer game? And at one point, they weren't so good, and he would have dropped it at a B block, and you could hear the station going click, click, click. Everybody's going to somebody else. It's just the 800-pound gorilla that you have to deal with, and it's a wonderful problem to have. At least for the last 30 years or so, they've been winning all the time. And I guess someday they'll probably go back or take a step back, and we'll deal with that. But and they have the toys. We have the whistles and bells that you need here. They're not a good. We have Chris Roth and a photographer over in London, en route to London as we speak, and we'll be there for 3 or 4 days. And it's just we're a player, and it's nice to be a part of a player.
Yeah, and you've been with them for a really long time. This community is blessed to have you. I know you downplay it, man, but from Lambeau Field and being the voice there to everything that you do on WBAY, and then everybody that lives here knows that you have an entire life serving nonprofits in Northeast Wisconsin, and the rest of the state should really know more about this. There is not an event that you can go to here that is any type of fundraiser that Bill Jartz either is currently hosting or has hosted in the past. You are phenomenal at it. And Bill, when I get a call, I've done a few of these things humbly. The first question I ask is, did you call Bill Jartz? Is he not available for this? Like, why am I? Hold on. And usually it's, yeah, he wasn't available. So how did you, I don't know, man, rare is the time when you get emotional, and that stuff gets you emotional. It's pretty special. What's your heart all about that?
Yeah, it's, you realize that you can really make a difference. I always, the CP telethon for me, excuse me, always pretty special. I live out in Maryville, as I mentioned, and there was a guy who lived out there, Lloyd Lohberger was his name, and his mother's name is Darlene. It's kind of a neat story. Darlene and her husband, Bill, had a son with CP, and Lloyd and their son were friends, and then her son died, and she adopted Lloyd. And I saw the miraculous things that CP did for Lloyd, and namely, they fitted him with a speaking device where he has a little thing on his head, and a hat they wear, and he could punch buttons and he could converse. Otherwise, Lloyd would be like a piece of paper or a highlight or something. But with the technology that CP provided him, he's able to communicate. He's a great guy, great sense of humor, and a guy who raises all kinds of money at the various events that he's involved in. So I guess I learned that it was pretty special to be able to contribute to that. And what I do on a day-to-day basis, people, they could get on their smartphone and find the news or weather or whatever. That day, I always say, and I truly mean this, when I drive home that day, I really feel like it's worth me taking breaths that day. And I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but it's really true because, if I like the 10 o'clock news, is it going to make a big difference in the world? Yeah, people will be nice to get the news and what's going on and, hello, goodbye. But that day you realize you've really made a difference in the lives of some people that maybe didn't have the best start in life. But they have a great attitude and they want to get better and they want to do the best and fulfill their destiny, live up to their capability, whatever that is. So I realized that early on that was kind of a big deal. And then when I was a kid, I wanted to be an auctioneer. I really did. There was a guy, Francis O'Connor, back in Clintonville. He'll know, your buddy back home in Clintonville, know. Jerry O'Connor's son, now Jerry's sons are involved in it as well. But Francis O'Connor would go to a farm auction. He'd be a little short, portly little guy, and he was just a fun-loving guy, Irishman, and he had the whole crowd. Everybody's like watching Francis. He's made money and sold, had fun and joked. And I think maybe I should try that someday. And in our business, a lot of people will MC, but nobody wants to be an auctioneer. And I just got to the point now where I feel very comfortable. I mean, I was a terrible salesman. Just bombed out as a stockbroker in a year. The paper sale will last about a year. Just terrible. And I couldn't ask you for money. But you put me in front of people that I need to sell. I need to sell this highlighter right here, and I'll ask you for $1,000 for it. And I'm just joking there. But I mean, things like I've sold footballs for $5,000. The other night we sold at an event for the Bellin College. We sold a dinner with 8 people with Coach LaFleur. And we started it. I think we were nervous to start it at $5,000, and we got it up to $30,000. And people go, oh my gosh, it was just magic. It's just mad. It just happens, And I'm not afraid. I know, who the people in the audience are, who I can jab with a little bit. I have these little things that I have a little Bill Jartz baseball card from the George Teague's league thing they used to have. I kept those babies, and I'll say, it gets kind of things slow down a little bit. I'll say, hey, whoever buys this thing is going to get this autographed Bill Jartz baseball card. I can't believe I got a baseball card. And it just keeps the party going. I now have come up with, every time we hit $1,000, we go, woohoo! The crowd goes, woohoo! So now I've got these pens made up that say Jartzy, woohoo! So if you get $1,000, I'll give you a pen. I've done, I have a bunch of John Deere tractors. I made a calendar one year, me or just the tractor on the calendar. And same kind of a thing. When it kind of bogs down, we got a big ticket item. Say, I'll tell you what, the winner of this baby's going to get an autographed Bill Jartz tractor calendar. And the people, it's just kind of like the novelty, though. More than anything, it's just the novelty. And oh my gosh, I can't believe. Oh, let's go get them. And it works. And it's a shtick. It's my shtick. Everybody's got to have a shtick. That's kind of my shtick when it comes to auctions. And it's just, it's nice to be able to help people out. Because, I mean, these things are, you get in a room, if you can tell if there's passion in that room, we're going to do well. Coming out of the COVID thing, there was a church out in just east of Denmark. Sold 24 cookies a month for a year. Sold it for $1,000. And then the following year, well, nobody's going to touch that again. We'll never be that like that again. The following, so that was in November. In April, we did the thing all over again. Sold it for $1,200. It was $4.66 per cookie. But it just works. I don't know why, but it works.
And it works because you're doing it, man. That's the truth.
It's fun. I mean, I'm just very lucky, and people have been so good to me. I mean, really, I met a lot of friends that way. I mean, a lot of folks in March of Dimes and things. Your family I've known since 1998. I met them, and we're still great friends. And you meet people, and you get to go on hunting experience. You become their families, and many of these people are friends, and they ask, "Well, would you do it?" Well, of course, you want to help out a friend. Sometimes it kind of crimps my off time. Like this month, I think I have 16 things going on. I mean, doing auctions, and that doesn't include Packer games. It's just, I'm just, it's not that I'm good. I'm free.
And you're damn good. Whether you're free or not, you're damn good.
Kind words.
And you've got some awards, right? The Heart of Gold, the Volunteer of the Year. Like I said, Bill, I moved here in 2006, and there has not been an event that my wife and I or my family that have attended that you haven't done. And so I want you to know that when I get asked to do it, I really do feel like I'm standing on your shoulders in this market, because there's just a few times where I've gotten blessed, like you say, the opportunity to give back. And but I'm taking notes every time I go and watch you do one of these things. I certainly walk away. I don't have any baseball cards around here, though. Figure out a shtick.
It's a wonderful feeling. It really, the thing is, you walk out of there and you sell these things like that auction, that dinner with a coach for $30,000. It didn't cost me a dime. I worked up a sweat. I guess I had to take my suit in when I was done. I felt bad. Typically, I never eat before these things. Oh, you gonna eat anything? I said, no, I don't eat. Well, you got to eat. I said, no, I don't eat, because here's why. I said, when I do these auctions, I sweat profusely. You've seen that. It's not a pretty sight. And Cammy has smelled it. That's not a pretty smell. But so I sweat a lot. And if I eat, now I can't breathe. So now you got a fat man up at the table there. He can't breathe and he's sweating profusely. He says, somebody called 911. He's having a heart attack. Gilpoint's having a heart attack. And I eat later, or I don't eat. I mean, Lord knows, again, I could go probably a few weeks without eating. Like Uncle Joe always said, though, she's all there and paid for in my belly. But it's just so much fun to walk out of there and know that you made a difference, because if we all did something, I'm not saying not everybody can write a check for $30,000 for a dinner or whatever, but you can always, even if you just bid early, or if you go bid on the silent auction, there's always something there that you can help out. Or if you don't have money aside, volunteer. Can you go in there and help them set up or tear down or clean, whatever? There's always a spot, and the volunteer centers are so very, very good about this, helping people, because some people wouldn't get up in front of, and one of the scariest things people do is public speaking. It's a known fact. It doesn't bother me. It used to bother me a lot more. Now I just hop up there and go. Now my biggest question is, I'm looking at my client, he's going to get back to do the 10 o'clock news, and I walk in the house, I'm sweaty, and I can't be there clear, do a little spray, a little cologne on there, and away you go.
Dab, 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 dab. We're good.
Yeah. More makeup, please. More makeup. And we put on our own makeup, just so you know.
You do? Okay. I'll cross that question off. That was right there. I was going to ask. A few more, Bill, and then I'll let you go, man. I'm really grateful for your time. So let's go back to Lambeau Field real quick, back in front of this microphone. Do you remember the first time you did it, and how nervous were you?
Oh, terribly. Oh, terribly. I'll tell you about my audition. It was in June of 2005, and we live in a log cabin. I was staying in the house, and it came to my bucket. I always put a little ice cream bucket around the belt, around my waist, and I was out of stain. So I came down. I was going to stir the paint, put some more stain in my bucket, go back up in the ladder. And I'm down there and filling my bucket, and the phone rings. I thought, Jesus, do I really? I'll go answer it. Hello, this is Bill. Yeah, hey, Bill, it's Jeff Blum from the Green Bay Packers. Hey, Jeff, that's what I was wondering why he's calling me. Bill, just so you know, Gary Knaffel's going to be retiring from the Lambeau Field PA job. We're wondering if you'd be interested. Yeah, I mean, of course I'd like to be the voice of Lambeau Field. So he said, well, could you, we think you're the guy. We've talked about this. Bob Harlan and John Jones have talked about it. We think you're the guy, you got the good voice, football, blah, blah, blah. Could you come in for an audition? I went, sure, absolutely. So hang up the phone. I still had stain. It's a white rotary phone. It's in my garage. It still has the brown stain on it. That's not going away, my friend.
Wow,
that baby belongs in the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. But anyway,
that is neat. Huh.
So I called my friend of Andy, who's since now passed. But I called Andy. I said, Andy, here's the deal. They might be the job for the Voice of Lambeau Field. Would you be my spotter? Because that is such a critical element. It really is. And I've had people where my wife's brother tried it, and friends do it, and they're looking up in the stand. You've got to be just put the blinders on and so focused. And he said, yeah, I'd be happy to help you out. So we go to Lambeau Field for the audition. Go up, and I had no idea what was going to happen. Go climbing up. We get up the ladder, walking through the Lambeau Field press box, Lee Rumble press box. And we are way down in the southwest corner of the end zone, 7th floor. And I said, why are we way down here? He said, well, we wanted to put you next to the contender vision control room so that you could talk. I said, well, we talk all the time, but aren't there telephones or something? So anyway, he's, well, okay, here's a list of some announcements for you to read, and then here are the starting lines. We just Bob is out there, and he wants to just hear it, make sure it sounds right. So I go review it, and when you're ready to go, just let me know. So I look it over. Okay, take a sip. Ready to go? Yep. Now, up in the booth, there's just a microphone on a stand and then a talk box. You have to push down on the button in order to speak. Thank goodness, because sometimes we say some nasty things up there. But anyway, so ready to go? Yeah. Bob, you ready to go? Yeah. Okay, here he comes. So I remember plain as day. And okay, whenever you're ready. And my hand, and I'm not kidding you, folks, my hand was shaking just like this. I said, okay. I said, for God's sakes, man, push down on the button. At least your hand will stop shaking. Good afternoon and welcome to Lambeau Field. And then we did the starting lineups and things. There was a tour going on at the time down in the field, and they're going, what the heck is going on? Is that are they cutting that Johnsonville spot or what? And fortunately, I got lucky and got the job, and here we are 18 years later.
Yeah, and you were the man for the job. That's pretty clear.
Well, thank you.
18 years later.
It never ceases to me how lucky I am. And I mean, I'm not saying it to hype this thing up, but just how lucky. I mean, I always say that if you ask somebody, say, listen, you could be the voice of Lambeau Field on game day next Sunday. You donate $5,000 to your pick a number, 5,000, 2,000, whatever. Donate that amount of money to your favorite charity, and you can be up there. You'd have a line of people from Green Bay all the way Oshkosh, probably, of people that would want to do that. And because it's such an honor. I mean, there are only 32 guys doing what I do, and I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I've had my share of mistakes, but I will give you an honest day's effort, and I can try to be as enthusiastic as I can. My job is to get that crowd revved up, and that's what I try to do.
72,000+ people flood that stadium and listen to you every single Packer home game Sunday. The question, though, I think they want to know the most, and then I'll let you go. What should they put their money on in that race to the cooler? You see them all. Who's the winner?
The three guys that we work up in the booth, we always have a little thing on. We always write, who do you like? Who do you like? We just kind of bet between ourselves. Who do you like? Who do you like? And Mike's on a roll right now. The guy that accused me in the commercials and accused me in the starting lineups. I think he's won the last 2 weeks in a row. That son of a gun. And he's the guy that always finds out early about the attendance. So he gets tipped off about the attendance. He'll say it's C up there before they get the attendance tracker. It was C, and well, yeah, because it's all written down. Or I said, they tip you off about the beer races too, don't they? No, it's just. You walk out and it's just so fulfilling. And I got a note from a matter of fact, today a guy sent me an email and he said, took my son Brian to his first Packer game on Sunday. And what did he like the best? The flyover, the game, the overtime? He said, no, the man with the voice. They said he liked the man with the voice. So could you send him a picture or something? So I sent him an autographed Bill Jartz baseball card. My friend Brian, the Bill Jartz baseball card's in the mail.
Full circle. Bill, I connect with that kid, man. It was me as a kid at County Stadium. I grew up in Southeast Wisconsin.
Sure.
And Bob Betts was the public address announcer for the Brewers back then. Yep. That's what made me fall in love with all of this. I realized that guy with this microphone controlled the joy in the entire place. And that is what you do best, Bill. You bring joy every time you're in front of one of these things, and even when you're not, man. Thanks for coming on Inside Wisconsin. I'm really grateful.
Thanks for the opportunity, my friend. Take care.